And start recording. Okay, so this is May 14th, 2024. And as Ellie just said, we're going to go over just a review of Ref Analytics. I guess to get started, of those of you that are on the call right now, how much experience do you have with Ref Analytics? Is there anybody that has never used it before, or is this more of a refresher for you guys? Cassandra, I see your hand going up. Is that have never used it?
I've never used it, no.
Okay.
But my office manager has, but I've never used it.
Okay. Everybody else?
I'm Joe from Indianapolis. It's a refresher for me.
Us
Okay.
as well.
All right.
I've used it badly.
Badly? Oh no.
Yeah, I know I'm not doing things right, but I'm trying to crunch some numbers out to put in my evaluation. So I'm at least trying to figure out, how many questions we answered and what kind.
Okay. Sounds good. I see lots of folks saying refresher in the chat as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Oh, come on. All righty. Is everyone seeing the LibApps kind of homepage there? Okay, so I also wanted to mention before we go much further into this, on the statewide library page, this is the staff guide. Everything that I'm going to be going over today is in the reference section here under logging transaction statistics. And so if you would like to see this written out somewhere rather than just trying to remember everything that I say, you can go here for that. So if we go to start to get in there, we want to go under LibAnswers. And when you log in, depending on your permissions, you may see a slightly different start screen, and it may start from somewhere different, but you always want to try and find LibAnswers and then Ref Analytics. And we're going to start with add transaction. We'll show you a couple of the other things later. And so a lot of this is pretty straightforward as far as the layout goes. I think what gets confusing for people later on is what to put where, when. And so hopefully we can clarify all of that as we go along here. So as we start at the top of the page, you always want to make sure that it's in this current Ref Analytics. If for some reason you ever need to go back and get historical data, you can go back to the older versions as well and pull information back that way. So this is the current version. So you have your question boxes here. So this can be just a really short synopsis of what your question is. If you want to add more detail, you can there. Same for this answer section over here. It doesn't have to be, War and Peace or anything fancy, just a brief, this is what we did. And at some campuses, you don't even have to put anything in these or even this first box. They're kind of optional. It just depends on what information you think would be most useful. And then also sometimes if you are just wanting clarifying information for some of these services refined down here, if you want to break it down a little farther to explain what it was that you did under all of those. And so we've got those boxes there. We have the timestamp section here. So it's usually defaults to current, but if for some reason, sometimes it gets crazy and you end up with, over the course of an hour, you've helped 5 people and you have to go back and add things later. You can do this edit date and time. The fun thing with the date and time here in Evansville is we are on Central Time rather than Eastern. And so it's always a little tricky to do you have to remember to do that mental math to adjust what hour things go under, but you do your day there, the hour, and then break it down by the little 5-minute increments there. And so there's that option. And then this first row of boxes is pretty self-explanatory. You'll want to find your campus. The sites are broken down here. So if you're helping a student or you or yourself are at one of these sites, then you would pick your location here. Question type. We have general question, technical, services, reference, and referral. And again, those are general would be general information. Where's the closest bathroom? Can I borrow some scissors? What are your hours? Things kind of general, quick, ready reference kind of stuff. Or not even ready reference, just general information sort of thing. Technical, we'll kind of go over these more later, would be anything related to technology. Services are the services that we provide, circulation, policy, things like that, reference, helping students find materials. And then referral would be if we're not able to help them in the library, who do we send them to? Or sometimes, they just grab our phone number off the webpage because we're in one of the few offices where you can call directly. And so we end up being that switchboard go-between. So those kind of questions would get put under referral. How was it asked? Again, very straightforward, in person, phone, email outside of the Ask a Librarian system. So if they send it directly to your Ivy Tech email, the Ask a Librarian form, web chat, we've got the text, social media, video conference. One thing that I think that we have been kind of wrestling with is where to put Teams questions. Teams wasn't heavily used when we redefined all of these the last time. And so where you put Teams questions for maybe faculty or staff members would be up to you, where you would want to at your campus figure it out, pick one thing, and then that would be maybe something that you would clarify up in the question box. You would maybe call it, an email, or pick one of these that you think best fits it, and then put Teams chat or something like that. Duration, again, pretty self-explanatory. How much time did you spend working with the patron? And then were they a student, faculty, etc. And then as you can see, you can clear all of these by just clicking on the title of the box at the top there. That is very handy when, because you can a lot of times just preset a lot of these. Because most of the time you're going to be helping a student. A lot of things will be under 2 minutes in person. Your location's probably not going to change very much. So you can leave those preset for the day. Then you've got your technical, hardware support, software, and web. We kind of define hardware as how to use any physical device there in the library, how to print. Do you have any specialty? Like we've got a die cut machine here in Evansville. How do we use that? We have electric 3-hole punch here. How do you use the 3-hole punch? Any of those kind of questions. Software would be related to anything that is installed on the computer. So something like Lockdown browser maybe, or the how do I set up my running header in my APA style paper, or how do I get Microsoft Office to quit doing weird indents or things with my paper. Things like that would be software support. And then web support would be anything online that they need help with. Things like My Ivy, Ivy Learn, some of the course specific products that they might be using, that would fall under web support. Services refined, library access would be if you've got community members that are coming in for guest passes for the computers, It would be alley cards. If you've got community members coming in to get a library card, if you're setting up students to check out materials, maybe they're so new that they haven't been imported into workflows yet, through Dynix, you would mark that there. Instruction request, when you've got faculty that come in to talk to you about visiting their class, you would mark that. Library space use, if you have event space in your library, if you've got study rooms, if you've got a computer lab where maybe they schedule to bring a class in, something like that, you would mark that as library space use. Circulation, pretty self-explanatory, checking out materials. Account and policy questions. This would be, why do I have a fine? Can community groups come in and use the study rooms? Anything like that would be under account and policy. Interlibrary loan. This would be to get materials from outside of the Ivy Tech library system, whether it's through CERCS or OCLC. And if you have both systems, if you wanted to track that, this is where you could use the question and answer boxes up here at the top to clarify. And then holds would be materials specifically, either, you know, they want you to pull something off your local shelves and hold it at the front desk for them, or you're requesting materials from another Ivy Tech campus. Then reference refined, research questions. How do I use the databases? Here's my topic. How do I find materials for that? Would be research questions. Citation and formatting would be not so much, how do I get Microsoft Office to do this thing, but should I have, in what way should it be formatted? Not necessarily, you know, how do I get Microsoft Office to do what I need it to do would be back in technical under software. But in general, what does it need to look like would be citations and formatting. Library overviews or tours. These are pretty common at the start of the semesters when you've got new students wandering in, wanting to know where things are, kind of a lot of policies all at once, things like that. You would do overview or tour. And then faculty collaboration, if you work with a faculty member on doing a LibGuide or talking about organizing research projects and giving them tips on that, that would be kind of faculty collaboration. And then finally, the last box is referral. Refined, and again, pretty self-explanatory. If a student comes into us with a question that we are not able to answer, sometimes they just kind of get frustrated with so many departments doing so many different things on campus. They come to us just because they know a library has answers. And so we help them out. It's like, okay, no, you don't need to be here. You need to go to the bookstore for your textbooks. If you're really wanting us to sit down and write a resume with you, the folks in career services are a better bet for that. Disability support, if they need accommodations, educational technology, if they're doing something with Ivy Learn and it's just not behaving, that's when you call in the ed tech folks. The instructor, if they don't know how to do their assignment or instructions aren't clear, it gets to be kind of a dicey area for librarians to do assignment interpretations. We might want to send them back to the instructor. If they need something from IT rather than us. Student services, we kind of lump a lot of stuff together there. That would be advising if they have questions about what classes they should be taking. If something's goofy with their financial aid or their billing or anything like that, we kind of lump everything under student services. And again, that's where you can go back up to your question and answer boxes and clarify. Proctoring, if you aren't the testing center at your location, you might be sending them to a completely different department. Same with tutoring. Other would be something that's not already on the list. And then turn away would be we just aren't able to help them. So for example, here in Evansville, we have laptops that we lend out. If we are out of laptops we aren't able to help them with that. There's not really another department we can send them to for that. Same with our study rooms. We've only got 3 of them. If they're all full, we mark that as a turn away. And we have the question and answer boxes where we clarify what that is. Because in particular, our administration is interested in what aren't we able to provide to our students? Are we seeing a pattern where they're looking for the study space and we don't have that quiet study space, things like that. And so that is just kind of a quick run through of the boxes there. So any questions so far?
I have a question.
Okay.
Say a student has already made a tutoring appointment and they call or they come in, they're at the front desk and they forgot what time and they ask us what time. Would that be a service? It's not really a referral, right? Because they've already made their appointment.
So this is something that you're like checking a booking system or something.
Yeah, to give them the exact time of their tutoring appointment.
I might actually put that back under general. Because
Okay.
that's because it's really not, like you said, it's not a referral. They're already looking for the service. They're just kind of double checking the time.
Right.
So I would call that just a general
Okay.
information because it's not really a library policy either.
No.
So I would think that would be general. And again, then you could use the question and answer boxes up here to clarify what it was that you
Okay.
helped them with.
Thank you.
I also have a question.
Okay.
You mentioned like Teams questions.
Mhm.
So, we ask a lot of questions amongst each other, related to different systems or just things that come up. So should we be logging kind of like internal, like staff questions that we have between each other? For example, we were trying to figure out stuff with like Blue Cloud Analytics
Mhm.
Teams. Would we be logging those internal analytics?
I wouldn't think so unless for your own usage, you're wanting to keep track of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Overall, I think Graph Analytics is more what we work with as far as our outside partners, the faculty, staff, community,
Yeah.
rather than our internal library working.
Okay.
I mean, if that is something that you want to track your time on, I mean, it's not like, we're not going to say don't do that.
Yeah.
But it might be one of those things where you kind of work out at Indy how you would want to keep track of that so that you can find it later. Because I don't know that there's a good way to separate that out. We don't really have it like a separate library staff
Mhm.
patron type or something like that.
So when you say like a Teams question, that would be like if a faculty member reached out to one of us on Teams or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I get a lot of questions from staff here on campus, like just like, hey, do you guys have laptops? Hey, do you guys
Yeah.
do this or things like that? Would
Okay.
be more
That
of the
makes more
Teams
sense.
stuff.
Yep. Cool. Thank you.
I have a question too then.
Mhm.
All the
Okay.
questions. So I have been doing a lot more with library programming, ESOL circles. So we will have students come in quite a bit and ask about the programs. Not all of them programs that I've organized are in the library. So I think I've been putting it under library space use, but I'm wondering if there's a better place to put that, and or if we can add program, like something program specific to services refined.
Adding it right now wouldn't be. Unless I have to go back to systems question. I'm thinking that to add something, we would have to redo the whole thing. Once it's set, it calls this the data set, and if you try and add something to it, you have to add, that's why we have all of these historical ones back here, is because we decided to reorganize things at different times, and you have to reorganize everything. And then it's two separate chunks. So if we added it, it wouldn't be I don't think it could be a stroke of the pen thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ellie, but
Yeah, I was just going to clarify. Are you asking about how you would record the events themselves?
No, not the events. Like if someone comes in and asks questions about it or where it
Mhm.
is, because again, not all of our programming is in the library. So I've been putting it under library space use or library access, usually library space use, but
Yeah.
again, that's not always, I guess I could do that and use the clarification section like you were saying, Lenore, but I was wondering what y'all would normally do.
If
I
it
would-
were, oh, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, I think it might be general, but if you've
That's
got,
what I would do.
yeah.
If it
Because
were
if
happening
they're,
on my-
if everything is already set up and they're just saying when, where, what's this about? I would put that under general and then use the question boxes to clarify.
Do you think that's the best way to track the importance of programming? Like the best way, how would we look at those numbers and say, wow, a lot of people are really asking about this?
Because what you can do when you gather the statistics, think this through. So if you go into statistics, sorry, shrink this so I can see what I'm doing. So then we would want to go to your campus, potentially adding Lawrence, if it's a something at both locations. Of course, you got your date range here. And then you can do your question type. And so then this is the April to May for general. And then, is there something in general that you would maybe have already commonly in the question and answer that we could maybe try and filter for?
I usually put the program name that they're asking about. I have not been recording that under general, so you probably won't find anything, but I would probably do
Oh, you did
ESOL,
do the
ESOL,
library.
something like that.
Well, let's just leave it. Go ahead and pick all of them. And you said ESL?
ESOL, yeah, usually I put the name of the
Then we
program.
can. So then it's only finding 2 of them.
Yeah, and that's just one of
So
the
I'm-
programs, but yeah, I just want to make sure I'm capturing it correctly so that we can see if there's interest or,
Yeah, so that could be one thing that works. It would just be a matter of then making sure everybody that's at the front desk is entering it the same way. Because we have that problem here in Evansville sometimes where we have the student ID machine here in the library. So I record those. They're supposed to be putting them under library access and then using the question and answer section, library or student ID. And people have been putting them all over the place. And so we're having to go back and remind people, no, this goes here, that goes. And so sometimes you really just kind of have to go limit it to your location and a specific time frame and just look through all of the, because you can do view edit transactions, pick your location, and just kind of look through for those keywords and hope that they use the right ones and didn't forget to clear something and now it's double booked, so to speak. And so unfortunately, a lot of it is just kind of making sure everybody is entering the same thing the same way so that those filters are more effective.
Laura, we could do that.
yeah, that makes sense. I appreciate the clarification and we can work that out how we enter it, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll be
And
back.
if you find, as you kind of work with it and find a better way, then that's definitely a something to share. Sometimes we just kind of smack at things and hope for the best. And if somebody figures out something better, then please share with the group. And so, and to kind of go back to my point earlier about sometimes people double book things. What will happen, especially when it gets busy, is you will have somebody that, marks, and then because they helped a student with a library, maybe they let them into the study room. And then the next person, they helped them with the printer. Now they've got two things marked and they hit submit. That can confuse things sometimes. So if you hit submit and clear, it wipes out everything. If you want to kind of avoid that, if you don't want to have to go back and mark these really common ones every time, just hit submit, and then always just kind of make it a practice to go back and clear those things that change frequently. And so that way you can keep your campus. Most of your questions are going to be in person. The time usually doesn't change too much. Most of our questions come in under 2 minutes, and that's across the state. And then we're usually helping students. And so how you do this is just kind of up to how your own brain works best. Yeah, Alexandra.
I just had another question for you. Beside the answered by box, there's a box marked internal note. When is the best time to use that?
I don't use it very much. And so I think this would maybe be, because I'm trying to think back to what we did set that up as. Not set it up as, but how that gets filtered. So I think that's something that if you are, oh yeah, the search filter transaction by an internal note. So that could be a different way that if you wanted to do like the programming is put it in the internal note field. I think it can also be something that's turned into an FAQ maybe. No, I'm thinking of something else. Ignore that. So internal note would be another option for the question and answer, an alternative to the question and answer boxes. It's just I don't use it enough to know all the particulars about it. So if somebody else has used it more, they can, oh yeah, include this transaction public knowledge base. Feel free to contradict me.
I have used it actually, especially for referrals or
Mhm.
when I need to write other and it says, please explain. Then I'll often say, we had to refer them to the public library or something that might not be on the list already for referrals. So I'll note it in there. Going forward, I'll put that in answer now that I know better, but I have been
No,
using
it's-
internal note.
Yeah, it's not so much know better. It's just a lot of this is kind of to figure out for your campus what works best. Because some of the broad stuff we look at statewide, but especially when you're doing the local statistics and when you're looking, for your own best practices, or you're having to go to your own administration and say, this is what we're seeing, this is what's going on. Kind of put stuff where it works best for you and that everybody at your location is doing the same thing, because that standardization is really what makes this work. And so. So any other questions? Okay. We already talked about some of this a little bit, but under this ref analytics section up here in the orange, you've got a couple of other things you can use. One is view edit transactions. So if you were helping somebody and you realize that something got entered incorrectly, what you can do is go back to your questions. And then you can actually go over here to this modify transaction button over here on the side. Oh, that didn't highlight it the way I thought it would. So if you click there, then it takes you back to where you can change things. And like, oh, I put that as a hardware support. It should have been, software instead or something like that. And then you can hit save changes and it will adjust anything that you needed to adjust. So that is there. You can also, we already talked about the statistics a little bit. But if you ever need to pull information for your either something that you're working on internally, or your administration comes to you and says, what does it that you guys do all day down there in the library? Instead of just saying running around like headless chickens, like we usually do, you can, show them like here's when we're busiest. So don't have meetings right now, things like that. Help you with figuring out when to staff the service desk, things like that. Maybe you're looking at, do we need to be open that early? Do we need to be open that late? All of that you can kind of look at from here. Shows you by campus, sites, question type, services. We get a lot of transaction on. Obviously, like I said, in person is our most frequent type of interaction. How they contacted us under 2 minutes. The 2 to 5 is running close behind. And so you can kind of just see here, and you can set a specific date range, set it to your location. All of that here. User statistics, you can kind of look and see for your campus. Does it look like people are entering the information they're supposed to? If you see somebody that's like, I'm seeing one of my folks on here that's here a lot, and I'm wondering why he only has 2 logged. So I guess I need to talk to him. And so all of that is available there. You can export these into Excel files if you haven't, if you need to take things to administrators. So there's all kinds of things you can do under this stats section. And and like I said, most of it's pretty straightforward. It's just a matter of what is it that you're needing to track to pull it and get it into some sort of coherent format. So, any other questions or suggestions of things to cover? Okay. Well, that's all I have then. I guess just kind of in closing, if you have any questions later on, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm always happy to help. And yeah, I guess that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
More.
Thank you.
Bye, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
We're battling.
Alrighty. Oh. Right.